All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host for today's broadcast in St. Lair 13 as we are about to get underway for the 9th race of P1R's SEC Monthly Enduro for the year 2025. We are about to get underway here at Kylami. Unless I'm looking at the sheets wrong, it looks like we're going to be having a slightly smaller field than normal today, but real quickly, let's go ahead and look at some of the drivers and teams that will be attending today's event. Snowland is going to be in the 8th wire number 200 Acura. ESV Pipes is back in one of the McLarens. So is ZR Collin, the 79. EMC Alto, we can't see their paint scheme right now. Same with Cavatro. India Light is in the number 420 McLaren. India Avocado is in the number 28 Team Noodles McLaren. NWR- is in the Chevy here. NDL Daniel is in the number 51 BMW M8. Still, this team has not moved to the new BMW, and I have to give them full props for that. ZR Villa is in the number 150 Audi. Hilfiger is in the number 31 Ford Mustang, and NDL Dindu is in the number 62 Ferrari. Apparently Makich is going to be joining. It looks like he's going to be in the Dodge Viper. So again, we think that we're going to have a slightly smaller field than normal, around like 14 to 15 entrants. It does seem like in protest for things that have happened over the last few events, a lot of entrants from the... excuse me. Yes? Okay. No, it does seem like quite a few entrants from the VER teams have gone ahead and withdrawn, potentially in protest for things that have happened over the last few events. So we are looking at what we believe will be a slightly smaller season than normal. Also, the Three Amigos team might have disbanded. We'll get more information to you on that later if it becomes available. Real quickly, let's go ahead and try to look at the championship standings as they are right now before we get onto the track proper. I am running under the assumption that this is updated properly. Okay, so at the top of the team's championship is NDL Black Pearl, which has Cavatro, Togue, and Avocado. They have 304 points. Second place, unsurprisingly, is ESV Motorsports, the entrants run by ESV Green, ESV Carts, and ESV Pipes. They are currently at 259 points. Then after that, you have third place, which is NDL Lobster, which has NDL Beats, NDL Wara, and NDL CJ. He is at 254 points. Fourth is NDL Rosso Corsa, which has Hot Dog, Dindu, and Micro. They are just sitting at 252 points. Then fifth place, a little bit farther out, is NDL Oil Slick. That is the team with NDL Cosmic, NDL Daniel, and NDL Drewski. After that, everyone else very quickly falls off in points. The next highest is way back at 161. Under the assumption that there are only two more races left, that is today's race and next month's November's race, the championship game is basically down to, assuming I understand how the points are awarded correctly, 86 points. Assuming that you are able to get a clean lap a penalty-free stint in all three of your stints, and you win the overall event, you can get 3 bonus points, 1 for each stint for being clean, and then 40 for winning. So if you are within 86 points and your rival does not show up for this event or the following events, things change. Now, right now, we are currently looking at a slightly smaller field than normal. We have 14 cars. Under the point system that the series uses, 14th place still pays 16 points. So that means in all reality, assuming that we're not going to have somebody get disqualified from the event and earn no points from today's event, and we have the same size field next month, then we are actually looking at a 27 times 2 points, which would be a 54-point swing. And the swing at the very top of the standings right now is at 45. So for assuming that we are not adding a 11th hour December Enduro to the series, we are looking at NDL Black Pearl winning the championship today, locking up the championship by default assuming that we do not have a last-minute December addition to the calendar, and under the assumption that they attend this race, attend next event, and do not finish at the very back while the ESV team wins the both event today and event next month. Again, the math gets a lot more complicated and a lot wilder if there ends up being a last-minute addition to a December Enduro, though. Right now, we seem to be in a prolonged holding pattern. I am unsure if it is because the officials are waiting on someone to join or if there is something else going on. So we have seen throughout various different parts of the series, single cars dominating, and this time it seems like it is the McLarens that have a ridiculous advantage over the rest of the field. The Merc, which at one point was the dominant car and owned half of the cars on the grid, not attending today. And no, I'm wrong. It looks like we might only have 13 cars for today's event. So we're going to knock out a Twitch-mandated ad break, and when we come back, we should see the field loading onto the circuit proper and gain underway. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are now on track here. Again, smaller field, but Kylami is also a smaller racetrack, so the reduced traffic may not have as much of an impact here as it would under other circumstances. So you'll see our field roll around here through turn 1. It is ESV holding the top 2 spots with 4 NDL entrants. And again, for NDL, for the top NDL team, they just need to go ahead and bring home a top 10 result at the end of the event here. And if they can do that, they will lock up the championship. It is McLaren, Dodge, McLaren, followed by another McLaren, then a Ferrari, then the BMW, and we are about to get underway here. Will ESV Barcode do anything to fight with ESV Pipes, or will he just act as a block and try to hold up the championship leader as much as possible? Green flag, and we are underway at Kylami for just a little bit under 2 hours of racing here in South Africa, and immediately Cavatra has a bit of a twitch going over the outside curbs as they head through Sector 2 now. Very short straightaway, big twitch near the rear of the grid. Again, the real thing to keep an eye on is going to be Barcode. What does Barcode and his team do? Are they going to try and fight legitimately with ESV Pipe's team, or are they going to be content to stay in the rear gunner position and just protect the ESV team's victory so they have a shot at winning the championship? That is the question. After missing a race earlier in the season and having a disconnect way back at Silverstone, it put the ESV team that is currently leading right now, the one with pipes and carts in it, and green, it put that team on a bad foot in the points standings. They have been trying to dig their way out of the hole, but the removal from Le Mans from the calendar hurt them a lot. It took away a race that they could earn back valuable points in. They have been absolutely fantastic ever since, although some would definitely argue it's been a little bit aggressive between the ESV teams and the other teams on track, and they may not have been giving other drivers room, but they have been able to pull off some incredible results here. Completed about an entire lap of racing, and Barcode is staying right under the rear wing of Pipes, but Indiel Cavatro is already losing steam. Let's look at the tire wear. Already 9% tire wear for ESV Pipes. For ESV Barcode, his tire wear is at 9% as well. For Indiel Cavatro, 10.4%. So Cavatro, and one of the other McLarens, is having a significantly rough time trying to keep the tires under him. He has opened up a respectable gap over the rest of the field for now, though. And at the back of the grid, something has gone wrong for NWR- in the lone Corvette. In fact, as we go through the entire field, I have to wonder, is anyone running on a harder compound tire right now? 8% only for NDL Light. So if someone's driving on the mediums, it might be NDL Light. Then you have NDL Daniel, who runs in 5th position. 13% tire wear right now. NDL Dindu, who runs in 6th. Dindu has been one of the best performers in this far. He's at 9%. We usually see him a little bit higher up. Snowland, who's started at the rear of the grid, he is up here in the Acura. He also is likely on the medium tires. Then you have Hilfiger, just a little bit behind him. He's at 14% right now. After that is ZR Colin and ZR Villa. Colin is at 9%, so he likely has medium tires, and ZR Villa is a little bit behind, is also at 9%. Then you have EMC Alto with 14.9%, and then Makik. And Makik, who is in 12th position, is at 15%. He is not having a good time with his tire life right now. Barcode continues to run right behind Pipes. The big thing might come down to the Dodge's big advantage in not having a ridiculous straight line speed. Now, Kylami is not a super high speed circuit. Yes, there are 2 significant straightaways here, but the majority of the corners, you go through them at relatively reduced speeds. We could, we could very easily be looking at a scenario where Barcode is just going to hang out behind Pipes, let Pipes burn up his tires, struggle a bit, and then after Pipes pits, Barcode stays out for a lap and leapfrogs Pipes in that way. Now, when it comes to the tire life between the two, assuming that they are both running the same tires, almost 20% already for the lead McLaren, and for the Dodge that runs right behind, he's also almost at 20%. So it might not seem like a massive advantage, but again, the Dodge Viper gets a significant advantage when it comes to saving its tire wear by just not pushing the tires to a ridiculously deep amount. Oh, and that's the McLaren off into the dirt, and you could see Barcode got off the throttle. He does not want to try and get alongside. Barcode is playing rear gunner for ESV Pipes. He is not going for the win. This is team orders within the ESV team as a whole to try and give them any shot whatsoever to win the championship. The ESV team is not going for the win for that number 38 Dodge team. They just want to do whatever they can to make sure that ESV Pipes' entrance wins this event by as big of a gap as possible. Oh, and that McLaren goes off into the dirt again, and so does Cavatro in the McLaren back there in third. He was losing ground earlier, but now, as this is going on, it seems like Pipes is really struggling keeping the car under him. And I have to wonder, is Barcode actually hampering Pipes? In real life, if you're running this close at high speeds, you can actually kind of push a bubble of air into the rear wing and the rear diffuser of the car ahead of you and upset its handling. Now, in this game, that's not properly modeled. It actually ends up being a inverse dirty air that basically is put on the lead car's front nose. But I have to wonder, is that having an impact right now? Is Barcode running too close to ESV Pipes, and is that causing Pipes to struggle like he is at the moment on track? Kvatro still hanging out in the wings, but he is not close enough to make a fight. And again, every time I see Pipes slide off, Kvatro seems to be having a similar slide. Big twitch and slide by Barcode. He let off and went through that corner without throttle by the looks of it. And it seems like that really shifted how the car took the inside curve. That second to last corner has a gigantic curve on the inside. Now, you ideally want to be able to run over it, but if your suspension setup is not designed to be able to hit that curb with those incredible lines and just absolutely take the hit from the bump, you will shoot off into the dirt. And the car will handle differently if you run over that bump at full throttle or if you run over that bump with no throttle. It looked to me like Barcode backed off so he wouldn't run into Pipes, and in the process of backing off, he really upset the car going over the curb. Still, he runs right behind, and Kvatro continues to stay several seconds back. I do not think that Kvatro has any recourse to try and fight with ESV Pipes here, as the laps continue to tick away at a furious pace. We could be looking at drivers completing about 100 laps over the course of the event here. A lap here is a little bit less than 2 minutes with, well, significantly less than 2 minutes with these GT3 cars. And you are looking at 2 hours of racing. This is not like Tora, where the final 20 minutes or so are pause and just gather directions. These events in this championship run all the way to the end. You go until the race timer hits all balls, all zeros. So early on, it seems like ESV has the advantage, with Indiel Kvatro holding on in third, and frankly, that is all Kvatro needs to do. Just bring the car home in third, and he can open up a good gap in the championship that should be enough to automatically lock up the title for his team, assuming there is not a December Enduro added to the championship. That is the wild card. We do not know if there's going to be a last-minute December addition to the calendar, which would bump the calendar back up to 11 races. If there is, then all of a sudden Kvatro's championship lead might be in significant peril, because nothing stops the ESV drivers unless there's teams that are using, let's just say, heats and spirit, if not necessarily by definition heats and spirit. 40% wear right now for your lead driver, 10% in the fuel tank for ESV Barcode. He's at 9% in the fuel tank, 40% wear as well. And then Kvatro, who runs just a little bit behind, he's at 41% wear, 16% in the fuel tank. So Kvatro might be set up to go a little bit farther on the tires, might set up to go one lap longer than what the ESV duo here is going for. And I think there's a distinct possibility we may see ESV Pipes and ESV Barcode pit at the same time. In which case, if the Dodge ends up taking a little bit less fuel, there is a possibility that Barcode and Pipes could end up being right on top of each other when they come out. Farther back, outside of the podium positions, Indiel Daniel in the M8 has broken away from the rest of the group just a little bit. Indiel Dindu is holding on to the 5th position with Indiel Light running behind him. Now remember, these three, Kvatro, Daniel, and Dindu, they are all fighting for 3rd, 4th, and 5th in the championship at the moment. Just like they are on track. Well, on track, they're fighting for 4th, 5th, and 6th. Didn't in the only Ferrari that has actually had any success throughout the season. Other teams, other drivers have run the Ferrari, but the Ferrari's handling is so eclectic that most teams agree that it's just impractical to run it over a season. We saw a PTG entry last month at Catalunya running one of the other Ferraris, and they went 2 laps down over the course of the event because the Ferrari's handling is just so atrociously poor. And it seems like only Dindu is able to master what that Ferrari can do, and a lot of that team's positioning in the championship comes off the back of what he has been able to do. Cavatro's starting to lose touch with the top 2 again on track. And it seems like Barcode is starting to fall off from Pipes' rear wing as well. So it seems like the fight at the front might be just about over. But again, here at Kylami, it is incredibly easy to drop a tire into the dirt and maybe do even worse. But if Cavatro does not have what it takes to keep up with the ESV duo, then it's just not going to matter. Still waiting to see when our leaders make their stop, but Cavatro has completely fallen off the pace of our leaders right now. He is hemorrhaging lap time. And with 4% left in the tank, I imagine this is going to be the lap that we see Pipes and Barcode duck into the pits. And I imagine they won't be the other ones. I imagine we'll see a vast majority of the field pit. So it seems like the soft tires can only go about 14 or so minutes on the circuit. Not as far as we were expecting. Again, Kylami is not a super high-speed circuit. You would think you'd be able to cheat some extra life out of the tires, but that may not be the case. Again, we're anticipating to see our top 2 pit this time. We do not know about Cavatro. We don't know if Cavatro is going to stay out for another lap or if he is going to join this duo in the pits. Cavatro has a little bit more fuel, and there it is. Pipes is coming in. So is... Barcode did not come in. Barcode did not pit. Barcode has 2.4% left in the tank, but he is going to do the overcut, and so is Cavatro, it seems. Now, NDL Daniel will pit. Hilfiger will pit as well. But of the leaders, Pipes is pitting a lap earlier than everyone else. So maybe Barcode did not want to fight on track, but maybe now, on an alternate strategy, he can try and do something to leapfrog ESV Pipes on the circuit here. Big problem for ESV Pipes. He is going to come out right in the middle of traffic. This is something we don't really see. Typically, these ESV drivers are incredibly lucky and do not ever end up in traffic. He's got to get his tires heated up. Now, the tires will be heated up by the time he gets to Sector 2 at the end of the short back straightaway. It seems like the McLaren setup, though, is so good, he doesn't even have to worry about heating the tires. There's the Audi of ZR Villa just ahead. Villa, who is also going to be on incredibly worn tires, likely isn't going to cause too much of a problem here for the McLaren. Yeah, the McLaren is causing more problems for himself than the traffic is doing for them. So this briefly puts Dindu up into 3rd place on track here. So traffic not holding up ESV Pipes by much, but if Barcode gets a nice clean shot in and out of the pits, that could, where he's not dealing with traffic at all, that could be enough to put him ahead of ESV Pipes. Barcode and Cavatro both jump into the pits this time, so they were able to stretch their tires out to about 15 minutes, but Pipes was not willing to do that. Dindu is going to stay out. NDL Light looks like he's going to stay out as well. So the front runners are burning through their tires significantly faster than the other drivers, it seems. Oh! And that was a huge hit there by McKeach. McKeach hit the dirt, twitched, and smacked into the tire barrier on pit in. No damage. But that's going to derail things quite a bit for him. Where is Cavatro? Cavatro right there behind ESV Barcode. And ESV Pipes is gone. Pipes has put 2 cars between this duo and himself. Why do I bother broadcasting these? When you see the ESV team show up, you know they win by default. I don't know why we bother broadcasting these. So Cavatro back behind Barcode, and Barcode has fallen off significantly on track from ESV Pipes. Now again, the big thing is that Pipes pitted a lap earlier, but it seemed like the undercut was a very, very positive trick for him to try and pull off here. Pipes only has a few cars ahead of him he still has to worry about. That's Colin, Light, and Dindu. I think Dindu is just pushing his tires on the mediums. He's just going to try and push them as far as he can. He's going for the reduction of pit stop strategy. India Light, I think, is doing the same thing in the McLaren here. He's just hit 50% right now, but he is struggling with that car. Then you have ZR Colin, who is way back here. Another McLaren. So McLaren's run 2nd, 3rd, and 4th on circuit right now. Just not a single thing you can do when the other car is absolutely cracked in setup. Barcode has cleared ZR Villa, but Cavatro is still struggling to do that. Again, for Cavatro, he does not have to win if he can just pull off a result that will get him an overall top 10. His team should win the championship by default. But again, if a last-minute December race is added to the calendar, then he needs to be able to fight a lot stronger, and he needs to be as high up the grid as possible. But he is having no luck whatsoever fighting with Barcode. Now, there are things may be interesting with Pipes, because again, Pipes pitted a lap earlier than everyone else. Hilfiger's already made his 2nd pit stop, so whatever strategy he's on, it is gone absolutely sourly already for him. This is Dindu, still your leader on circuit, running on the medium tires. Staying out for another lap. So I think he's going to be pushing out to about 21 minutes on the medium. Soft tires seem to go about 14, 15 minutes. Mediums seem to be able to go about 21 minutes. That's what it seems like we're looking at the moment. Bit of a twitching to the dirt there by NDL didn't do. Cavatro continues to watch. Barcode ahead. Barcode's march through traffic has stalled out just a little bit. He's not really running down on ZR Colin by any significant margin right now. But we expect Colin will be pitting at the end of this lap. So these drivers will be in clean air. Same with ZR Villa and Snowland, who have both not yet pitted, but have already been passed by this duo. Once we see the entire field pit, we'll have a good idea where everyone's actually running. But again, the big interesting thing, I would argue, is Pipes pitted a lap earlier, got him a significant on-track advantage when it came to undercutting his competition. But we don't know how much of that is going to hold up as the event continues here. We don't know if as he burns off his tires, he falls and slips back into the grasp of ESV Barcode or what. NDL didn't do, finally jumping into the pit. So does NDL Light, and they both do it just as ESV Pipes caught Light on the circuit here. So ZR Colin will also jump into the pits, and they push their mediums to about the 58% range right now. Villa and Snowland will also go ahead and pit this time. So where is Dindu going to end up in relation to the drivers who already pitted, primarily NDL Daniel, who was ahead of him before everyone completed their first round stop. So as they come down, Daniel has opened up a gigantic gap over NDL Dindu for the moment, followed by NDL Light. Then ZR Colin limps out of the pits. Then we'll be looking at ZR Villa and Snowland, but the thing is that Makish is already up to full speed, so Makish blasts by the two of them, so Makish goes back up into 8th, although he's still behind Colin. ZR Villa also is going to go ahead and get passed by EMC Alto. And with that in mind, everyone has now completed their very first round of pit stops here. Real quickly, looking at the tire life of our leaders. 34% already for ESV Pipes. For ESV Barcode, who pitted a lap later, he is only at 26%. And for Indiel Cavatro, who pitted along with Barcode, he is also only at 26%. Daniel, who is fighting with Dindu for 4th on track and 3rd in points, he is at 34%. On Warren Sauce, while Dindu just came out of the pits, we don't really know what he's on yet, although my suspicion is that he might have put on some mediums. We'll get a better idea later, but he is at 5%. So we are going to go ahead and take a Twitch-mandated ad break, but while we do, let's go ahead and ride on board for a flying lap with our championship leader, Indiel Cavatro, around here at South Africa's top-tier Kylami racing circuit. And that's a full lap on board with Indiel Cavatro, 3rd place on track and leading the championship at the moment. Daniel is slipping back into the grasp of Dindu and Light. Remember, Daniel started on soft tires, but his tires are falling off right now. Dindu has put on some nice, fresher tires. He is running what we believe to be medium tires at the moment, again, for the 2nd time. Again, I'll get a better grasp of that later depending on when he makes his next stop, but I think he may have put on another set of mediums. We'll find out in a bit, one way or another. There is a bit of a glut here in the rear of the field. This is EMC Alto, ZR Villa, with NWR Hyphen a little bit behind, and then Snowland just a little bit ahead of them. So a little bit of a foursome on track. Not really a lot of active fighting going on amongst this group at the moment, though. As I say that, Villa goes off into the dirt. Doesn't seem to actually lose too much time in the process, but it's going to compromise your ability to actually fight. Real quickly, we turn our focus to ESV Pipes. We are curious, when is he going to make his next stop? Not this lap. He has fuel for another lap, but he pitted a lap early than everyone else. He was actually the first driver to jump into the pit lane of everyone on track. He's trying to spend as little time on worn tires as possible. Then you'll have ESV Barcode and NDL Cavatro a little bit farther back, who are on fresher tires, but they have not made any headway in trying to run down Pipes. I have to wonder if now that Pipes is just away from his teammate on track, he doesn't have to deal with the inverse aero wash being thrown onto the car. So it looks like our top 3 results on track are already predetermined. The fight's going to be here, this one, for 4th on circuit between Daniel, Dindu, and Light. And as I say that, just as I go to focus on a fight on circuit, something happens that breaks it apart and instantly ends it. There's not going to be anything to talk about on the circuit here in about 10 minutes, just with the way things are going. So it seems like Alto, Villa, and Hyphen here are all struggling with their cars in slightly different ways. Reminder, this is a McLaren, a Audi, and a Corvette. The only Corvette on circuit at this stage of the event. Well, at this stage of the event. In this event. Only one Ford and only one Chevy running today. Chevy's incredibly fast over single lap pace, but none of these Chevy entrant teams have elected to run. And NDL Daniel is actually pitting a little bit earlier than anticipated. So that's going to cycle him well back down the grid, and that could open up things for Dindu. And we see Villa and Hyphen going at it here. Nothing on track between them yet. And all of a sudden, Pipe's gap over Barcode is rapidly starting to shrink. He has pushed his car out to the 63% mark. He's only got 2.5% left in the fuel tank. He should have the fuel to still make it into pit lane. So he pitted a lap earlier than his rivals last time, but now, has he pushed the tires a bit too far, trying to get back on sync with them? He's just about been caught by ESV Barcode, but again, we think that Barcode has been told to not fight for the win at all. His goal is to just hang out behind his teammate. The other thing is that while Barcode is just back caught Pipes, Cavatro has completely fallen off. And here we are, Pipes hitting this time. Is he joined by Barcode? No, Barcode goes a lap farther. Okay. So the tire fall off was incredibly extreme there for Pipes at the very end. But now I have to wonder, are we going to see the same thing out of Barcode? Barcode is going for about 15 minutes per pit stop. Pipes is a little bit closer to the 14-minute range. Not really a point in talking about Cavatro, because unless Barcode gets shunted off track or shunts himself off track, we know that Cavatro has no chance of fighting for the top 2 positions. It's really just, is Barcode going to be allowed to fight with ESV Pipes on circuit? Is there team orders? We believe there is team orders based on the way that Barcode has been driving. When Pipes showed weakness earlier, Barcode intentionally backed off and did not fight for it. So we think that there is team orders within the ESV team, keeping them required to run 1-2. But if something goes wrong with Pipes, things could change. Speaking of which, Pipes is going to have to deal with a little bit of traffic again. He is tucked up behind NDL Light and NDL Dindu, both drivers who are on old, worn-out tires. He's not really storming up through this duo like I thought he would have been able to. Here comes Barcode and Cavatro into the pits this time. Now, this here is the two most important corners for Pipes, and Pipes did not go for any giant lunges under braking like I thought he would. Tries to get to the inside, can't. Yeah, I think he's going to be held up here by this other McLaren just a bit. Does he shoot to the inside in the final corner? No, he's still stuck behind and does not have a fantastic exit out of the final corner. But there is Barcode and Cavatro. They have lost more ground to Pipes. So while Pipes is pitting earlier, it's only by 1 lap. It's not 1 lap after 1 lap after 1 lap. He's only maintained this single lap extra gap. So as long as he is not wrecked or shunted off circuit or anything by either Light or Dindu here, Pipes should be fine. But Pipes is gone the entire lap without making a move. Alright, surely he'll make the move this corner. No, he is not going for the move yet. Big twitch. Does he go for it here? He's close enough. He can lunge, and if he lunges deep enough, I guarantee you Light would back off and let Pipes have it, but no. So, Traffic holding up ESV Pipes. Something that is very, very rare. Not in the sense that he's just ridiculously good and goes through traffic, but every time I watch this ESV entry, whether it's Pipes, Karts, or Green, almost every time they make pit stops in any kind of racing, whether it's MX5 Cup racing, GT racing, prototypes, touring car races, doesn't matter. Almost any time they pit, they never end up dealing with traffic, or when they do catch traffic, there's such a massive tire discrepancy that they don't even hold them up. This is one of the very few times we are actually seeing ESV Pipes being held up by traffic. And this works out well in the favor of ESV Barcode and Cavatro. It gives them a chance to try and close down the gap they have a little bit. Because while Pipes has fresher tires right now, he is not really getting good use out of them. We are now on the 3rd lap, and he's only at 15%, 16% wear, so I think that's your reason. It's not that he is being held up by traffic, I think. I think it might be a case that he has put on a set of medium tires. So he is being nice and proactive. Dindu continues to lead. Light runs in second. And now Pipes finally pulls alongside Light on the outside. Both of the McLarens get really sideways through there. An outside overtake is incredibly difficult. Well, Barcode's at the same tire life as Pipes right now. And so is Cavatro. So, there's now a massive tire life differential that we have to consider here. I think these three have put on medium tires now. They want to make as few stops as possible. There's the move. Pipes with a gigantic commanding move goes to the inside of Light and moves by him. It took a significantly longer period of time than we anticipated, and just after he did it, you see Light and Dindu both pit. So Pipes finally ends up in clean air, but his gap between himself and ESV Barcode has been just about cut in half on the circuit. ZR Colin is choosing not to pit yet, so this driver is staying out a little bit longer here. We don't know yet about ZR Villa. No, it looks like Villa is also going to wait a little bit longer. But everyone else, it looks like they've done a medium-soft or soft-medium strategy thus far, or soft-soft. But yeah, it seems like the majority of the field has made 2 stops. It is really just Colin and Villa, the ZR teams, trying alternate strategies. But the sad thing is, while because there's so much clean air, there's not really a chance for these drivers to be able to take advantage of running in clean air away from everyone else with how small the field is and how spaced out it all is outside the very back of the pack. There's not really an advantage in running in clean air. There's clean air just about everywhere on the circuit today. Well, let's go ahead and show you the distance penalties thus far. And here's the interesting thing. Right now, ZR Colin is the only driver on track with no distance penalties. Pipes and Barcode have a little bit, but Cavacho already over 1/10 of a mile in distance penalties. And again, for Cavacho, he needs to remember that he needs to be as high as possible if a December Enduro gets added. If there's no December Enduro added last minute to this calendar, then he can just come home, bring that team home to a 10th place result overall, and they'll be fine. But if there ends up being a December Enduro added, that puts another huge heap of points on the table, and Cavacho ideally needs to bring home another podium today. I am kind of impressed that Colin has not gotten any distance penalties yet at this stage of the event. This is Dindu and Light. These two are on the same strategy thus far. They have been fighting with Indiel Daniel, but Daniel has slipped behind them. The big thing, though, is that Light is closing up on a quarter mile of distance penalties. We are a little bit more than a quarter of the way through this stint, and he already has a quarter of a mile of distance penalties. Daniel has about half of that. Oh, and Dindu's just pulled over. Dindu pulled over and let Light go by. Not really sure what was going on there. But Dindu pulls over and lets India Light scoop by for the position. Right in the middle of the straightaway, he just pulled to the extreme inside, got off the throttle. So even though that McLaren had dumped tires into the dirt and lost some speed, he was basically handed the position. I'm interested to see when ZR Colin pits, where it puts him in relation to Snowland, Makich, Alto, and Hyphen. I have to wonder if maybe Dindu didn't like having to deal with the reverse aero wash. But even if that's the case, he's now pulled back up alongside Light. They are in a drafting battle down the straight. Most significantly between Light, Dindu, and Daniel. Right now, Dindu has the least amount of distance penalties of the three of them. Now again, it's not just this 2-hour stint we have to worry about. There are 2 more stints with 2 more different drivers that we'll have to keep an eye on as well. Dindu does not pull over and give Light the spot right away this time. Alright, real quickly, looking at our leaders. ESV Pipes, whose tires are a lap older than Barcode's. He is at 42% wear right now. ESV Barcode runs in second. He is at 35% wear. And then Cavacho, who runs a little bit farther back, 34%. Again, big thing is that Cavacho is fast enough to keep his eye on Barcode and to a lesser extent Pipes, but he has not been anywhere near fast enough to fight with them. Now, if Pipes and Barcode started actually battling on circuit, we would likely see Cavacho close the gap down, but the bigger problem is that Cavacho is closing up on a 1/5 of a mile of distance. He's already at a little bit, about a 1/6 of a mile worth of distance penalties, while Pipes and Barcode are only at a little less than 4% of a mile. Okay, so this is interesting because Dindu and Light are running down on ZR Colin quite quickly here. Now, Colin will likely pit at the end of this lap, but if Dindu and Light catch Colin before he pits, their little battle could end up being derailed by that traffic. Of course, it comes down to where you catch them. The worst corners to catch traffic on this circuit are the last 3 corners, because drivers with burnt out tires just are not going to be able to get out of your way. The third to last corner is really, really wide, and you can go ahead and take alternate lines to try and get side by side, but you'll still have to compromise your line so there's enough racing room for 2 of you through the second to last corner, which has that gigantic curve on the inside that you want to throw your car over. And then the final corner is very, very close to being an outright hairpin. There is only a single line through the final corner. Now, again, if Colin pits this time, they won't have to worry about the final corner, but there's still 2 corners that this duo are going to have to deal with Colin. And yeah, they've just about caught Colin here. Unless Colin pulls out a banger run, Dindu may end up being held up, so this could be Light's best chance to try and go for a big move on Dindu here. Yeah, Dindu backs the back way out of it, and there's the move. Light goes to the inside, puts the bumper to Dindu. Dindu is shunted a little bit wide, and he is stuck behind that McLaren. Can't do anything with him. He pits, but already you can see that it brought Light right there. Light dives, but just barely misses him. NDL Daniel pits as well, so Daniel got as high as 4th, but it seems like as this is going on, the strategies just continue to go worse and worse for Daniel as it continues here. And now I want to see where ZR Colin ends up in relation to McKeach, Alto, and Hyphen. There goes Snowland. There goes McKeach. They'll both pass Colin without too much issue. NDL Daniel's still in the pits. ZR Villa is still in the pits. MC Alto is way back, so is Hyphen. So I think Colin has stabilized to about 8th position on track here. And the gap between Pipes and Barcode is shrinking once more. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and ride silently for a lap on board with the Dodge of ESV Barcode. And we'll be back momentarily here at Kylami. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Kylami. You saw right there, Barcode got right behind the rear wing of Pipes just before Pipes elected to make was thus far his 3rd stop of the day, but Cavatro is nowhere near Barcode. It is really just a matter of what can Pipes do or not do. Other thing it considers that Barcode has slightly less distance penalty than Pipes right now. If that continues, then if we get to a scenario where the very end of the race, Pipes is right behind Barcode, Pipes might still nip Barcode for the Stint victory here. And just you look a little bit behind, once again, is Light and Dindu, but this time they are behind Pipes, so Pipes will not have to deal with any traffic for the rest of the rain unless he is putting cars a lap down. So yeah, also, while we were away, ZR Colin went ahead and got a distance penalty. So every driver on track now has a distance penalty. So no one is getting a bonus point for running the entire stint without a distance penalty. So it seems like all softs, or primarily softs, is the strategy of choice by our top 3. Everyone else seems to be a little bit more up in the air. But when you're running so much time in clean air, you might as well go for sheer pace. Okay, Barcode's pitting this time. And so does Cavatro. So is Pipes, who is now in clean air, going to be able to open up a gigantic gap on Barcode again. Looks like Dindu is pitting this time as well. Light stays out for a bit longer, though. Dindu is really chewing up the rear tires on that Ferrari to no one's surprise. Okay, the gap between Pipes and Barcode. Oh, that could be a problem. It does not look like it's going to be too much of a problem for Barcode, but he does have India Light right behind him. He's going to have to deal with a little bit of problem in the sense of someone pressuring him for the position. Now, Light's got really worn tires, so he should fall off the back of Barcode without too much issue here. And yeah, it does seem like that's already resolved. Big thing for Cavatro, who is a little bit farther back, is that now Cavatro is likely going to have to deal with India Light, assuming Light doesn't pit this time by. Actually, looking at his fuel, he has 5% left, so he could probably do the rest of this lap and one more. So yeah, there is a high likelihood that Cavatro will be held up by this McLaren. You see EMC Alto making his third stop. The gap between Pipes and Barcode has shrunk a bit, but last time it was like this, we saw is that as it went on, Pipes is legitimately faster, it seems, than Barcode. And yeah, here comes Light pitting now. Okay, so Cavatro is not going to be held up by that. So our top 3 continue to be unimpacted. Let's see where Light ends up in relation to Indy El Dindu, the driver he has been fighting with on track for most of the event. Dindu rounds the final corner now. Hit a lap earlier. The undercut has a massive advantage if the leaders are to go by. ZR Collin is still between the two of them. Looks like the undercut did not work out for Indy El Dindu, though. If anything, it looks like the overcut for Light was the way to go. Light has opened up a significant gap against Dindu on circuit. And now Dindu is going to have more worn tires, and he's only just going to gradually burn off and lose more time as his car is going to get slower. His car will get to a slower pace quicker than what India Light will be at. So yeah, it looks like Light may have done what he needs to in order to nip Indy El Dindu here on circuit for Stint 1. We're not yet halfway through, but it's looking depressingly like all of the battles and all the fighting on track has already been decided and sorted out here. Reminder, in the top 10, every spot within the top 10, outside of the gap between first and second, is a 2-point gap right now. In the championship, assuming that the point sheet that I'm looking at is properly updated, it is the team of Beats, Wara, and CJ who are running third in points. The India Lobster team. But they are not at the event. What? No Beats, no Wara, no CJ. Dindu is here. Daniel is here. Where's Light? I see JSR Light. Is that India Light? Has he changed his name? Well, if Light's changed his name, then that would be helping out the Jap Speed Racing team that used to be JSR. But they are way down with only 84 points. I don't think that's the same team. Yeah, there's no way that's the same team. Oh, no. Alright, so if that is Light, it might be that he is running on the, on a different team. He might be running on the Indiel Valstrask team. The team that ran the Ford GT for majority of the season. And they only have 123 points, so they're just trying to clip a few extra points off the back of the NWR- team. So that would mean that as it stands right now, it would be the Rosso Corsa team that has Hot Dog, Dindu, and Micro. Looks like they are poised to go up to third in points because the team that actually was third in points does not seem to be running today. Huh. Meanwhile, at the head of the field, the gap between Pipes and Barcode has stopped opening up. It is actually shrinking. 26% tire wear for Barcode. Pipes, who runs in first, is at 34%. So they're still on the same strategy, but Pipes went pitted one lap earlier on the very first stint of the race, and it's kind of put them on a back foot for the majority of the time. Of course, the big thing, though, is that their fight is with Cavatro for the championship. They need to make sure that Cavatro does not get first or second. Ideally, if they could push him down farther than that, it would be great, but there's only 2 ESV teams, and I don't think they're in a position to enter a third car just with the sole purpose of holding up Cavatro and forcing Cavatro to drop down the grid here. Our top three all do share straightaways with each other. But yeah, the gap between our top two has gradually shrunk down again. Pipes seem to be a lot faster than Barcode early on, but now I have to wonder. Barcode caught Pipes at the end of the last run on tires. And our top three, they're all set up for a 7-stop strategy, all pitting about once every 14 to 15 minutes here. Going about 10 laps, I would say, on a tank before ducking into the pits. No change in distance penalties for Pipes or Barcode, and with Cavatro still there hanging out almost at a fifth of a mile of distance penalty. Even if Cavatro catches Pipes and Barcode on track, he'll get shunted way back behind them, so he's not really a factor. Only thing that's really helping Cavatro out, though, is that he's way faster than everyone else who is fourth on down. And in the case of India Light, he's already got over a third of a mile of distance penalties, and we're almost halfway through the event. ZR Colin, who is running an alternate strategy, might be legitimately fighting with Dindu and Light for a position somewhere in 4th, 5th, and 6th. Colin is running on an alternate strat, so it's a little bit hard to tell what his actual positioning is going to end up being, but he is running a wildly alternate strat compared to everyone else on the circuit. So Colin's pitting now because of tire life, and Zilla will join him. Right now, it is still Dindu who has the least amount of distance penalties of everyone on circuit right now. And once more, we look at our lead duo. Barcode in the Dodge, Pipes in the McLaren. The majority of the field rocked up in McLarens for today's event here, but their success has been really all over the place, although the McLarens are, without a doubt, better than the Corvettes, to say the least. Hilfiger making his 5th different stop of the day. Hilfiger is actually going to go a lap down while in the pit lane by the looks of it this time by. So it's taken Hilfiger about an hour to go a lap down as he is in that Mustang entry. Mustangs have just been probably one of the worst performing cars of the entire season. Now they do have that win at Bathurst. They won the overall event and finished in the top 2 in each of the stints. But that was because they had ESV Green, who was allowed to go all 3 stints. You're not supposed to let a driver do all 3 stints, but ESV Green was allowed to drive all 3 stints and was basically given a freebie win despite that and issues on track. But if not for that, the Mustang has been the worst performing car across the entire season. They have not had a single podium result outside of that, although here in the later stages of the race, in the later stages of the season, podium results now just seem to be more a matter of if your car has been picked by the ESV team or not. Pipes had a big twitch over the curb there. You could audibly hear it. You didn't see it necessarily, but you could audibly hear it. And Barcode has just about caught Pipes. And you look at Pipes, he is at 60% on that rear tire. Barcode on the other hoof, he's at like 44%, right? 52%. So Barcode continues to do better and better than Pipes. He is now right behind Pipes at the start of this lap. Does he put the screws to his teammate and try to physically make the position? As the event has gone on, oh, and that's Pipe sliding wide, and here comes Barcode! And Barcode's gonna get by him! It's taken almost exactly an hour, but our first on-track lead change that was on merit, mano y mano, and Barcode goes by Pipes. So our team order's out the door. Because if Pipes doesn't win this stint, and his teammates don't have the speed to steal the stint victory back, that will likely give a much needed extra buffer to Gavatro's team. That's 4 extra points that team wouldn't get. But yeah, Barcode has gone by Pipes, and now Pipes is hemorrhaging time. He's not even coming close to keeping up with Barcode. He has pushed the car too far. Is he gonna have the fuel to make it to the pits, actually? Yeah, he'll make it to the pits. It'll be a little bit close, but he'll make it to the pits. But he pushed it out to 67% tire wear. And he is now falling behind Barcode on circuit, and Barcode's going to stay out for another lap again. But Pipes pits. The only other thing to consider, though, is that Cavatro has just had no pace in relation to the ESV drivers after the first round of pit stops completed. So Pipes is not really at risk of losing second. But that's 4 very important points that basically knocks that team out of championship contention. Assuming there's not a December Enduro added, but right now I'm going off of the championship schedule as I remember it. There should only be one more event in the season after today. Snowland and Daniel have caught each other on the circuit. Snowland is at 50% tire wear. Daniel, who runs just ahead of him, is at 53%. So Snowland has a slight tire advantage, and Daniel, who was as high as 4th earlier in the event, has gradually dropped off. His pace has not been there today in that BMW M8. And Snowland is putting the screws to him. BMW M8 versus Acura. The M8 is going to defend the inside line. The Acura is going to swoop around. That's not even a defense. Daniel just pulled over, really, to let the Acura go by. I think we've seen only 3 real mano-a-mano overtakes on circuit today. Well, only 1 real overtake, and that was Barcode and Pipes. Every other overtake we've been seeing has really just been the driver ahead, for whatever reason, pulling over and slowing down on the straightaway to let another driver pass. Okay, though there was also the one where didn't do muscled his way back by light afterwards, I guess. Okay, Barcode is pitted. Pipes is on fresh tires now. So is Pipes going to be in a position where he is going to be behind Barcode? Cavattro pits as well, but he is not a factor in this stint. Big twitch there by Pipes. There's the Dodge coming out. That's Barcode, who's already accelerating up to speed. But Pipes is already at his top speed. He's going to have a better top end than what the Dodge naturally does. He's just about going to catch him in the braking zone. He goes to the outside, side by side for the lead. But Pipes is trapped on the outside. Okay, so now if you're Pipes, you are the one in the attacking position. What do you do to get by the Dodge? You should have a significant speed advantage. Is that going to be enough to let him get alongside? Down the back straightaway now. Nothing this time. He needs to get out there and get aggressive. Put the nose in places that wouldn't normally belong to try and force Barcode off the ideal racing line. But Pipes has been relatively passive when he was held up by traffic earlier. He was held up by a solid 3 laps. He is not a very aggressive driver when it comes to fighting on circuit, and that might be what compromises him, because now he's in a position where bit by bit he is losing ground because of the tire life discrepancy, and now he is behind his his teammate, and what appears to be rival Barcode. Pipes needs to stick that nose of the McLaren in corners that doesn't belong. Nothing yet, nothing there. Now they're about to come onto the front straightaway. The Dodge Viper traditionally has very poor top end. All the Dodges in this game have a poor top end, but great torque. Oh, and that's Barcode into the dirt. Compromises his line going into the final corner. Okay, who gets the better run out and who has the better top speed? This will be realistically the last good place I think Pipes can try and outrun Barcode without being excessively aggressive. Does he go for the move? No, he actually brakes early. I would have gone for the move, but he does not go for the move. Cavattro multiple seconds behind, and with nearly 2/10, or about a fifth of a mile distance penalty, he will not factor in for this lead battle. I think it's over. It looks to me like it's over, and just about the halfway point, Barcode has nipped Pipes, and already it looks like now it's just going to be a matter of Barcode has to keep Pipes behind him until Pipes feels the tires falling off. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take a Twitch-mandated ad break, and we'll be back momentarily here at Kylami as we enter the 5th round of tire life here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome you back here to Kylami. A bit more than 50 minutes left in the event. Pipes led nearly all of the first bit of the event, but he pushed his tires too far, and as this event has gone on, he seems to be struggling with tire life. That, and as the sun is going down, it seems like the Dodge is getting faster relative to the McLarens, because the McLaren of Indiel Cavatro, way back here in third, has also been bleeding off time as the event has gone on. So I feel that these McLarens may be very fast in the daytime, but the sun is set, the track is near completely covered in shade, and now it seems like all of the McLarens are collectively rolling over and dying here. Dindu is making a pit stop right now, so that will put Indiel Light back up into the 4th position. Dindu, Light, and Colin all seem to be on a bit of a convoluted strategy-based fight right now for the 4th position, and basically every other position seems to be pretty much decided outside of this little battle here between Indiel Daniel and Snowland. Daniel pulled off circuit and let Snowland by earlier, but now they've both made stops, and Daniel is back ahead of Snowland. And now this time Daniel just runs wide to let Snowland by instead. Every time I look at this is not really a battle. It seems like Daniel wants Snowland to go ahead of him and just run off, and he keeps catching him. But basically every other battle on track has already been decided. It is just this stalking battle right now at the head of the field. But it appears that the McLaren, which came out in big numbers today, is not able to perform as the sun is going down here. Again, there's basically nowhere on track that has sunlight on it anymore. The big thing, though, could end up being that for Cavatro, is he at risk of getting caught by Indiel Light. Light does have a lot more distance penalty than Cavatro right now, but Light is also in another one of the McLarens. Then you have ZR Colin, who is also in one of the McLarens. Then you have Indiel Dindu, who is in the Ferrari, but he's on a wildly alternate strategy right now. So if Dindu catches Cavatro, that could upend and change how things turn out going forward here. But the way this is going, I don't see that being a feature. Cavatro, let's see here. Dindu is basically an entire third of the track behind Cavatro. And while Cavatro, if the McLarens are falling off like it looks like, while that car will continue to bleed off time as this goes on, they are not in a position, I feel, where they're going to lose so much time that Dindu is going to catch them. Meanwhile, Light and Colin are also in McLaren, so they will be losing distance at roughly the same pace. You can see a small amount of sunlight right there in turn 2. And there's little hints of sunlight here on the back straightaway. But yes, it does truly seem like the track has completely darkened up now. There might still be a little bit of light at the very top of the circuit at the end of Sector 2 to start of Sector 3. No, there's not even light up there, is there? Yeah, so the McLarens are all going to just continually bleed off time by the looks of it. ZR calling it up right ahead of this fight between Snowland and Daniel. Again, we look at our lead group. Our lead duo. And Barcode is now opening up the gap on Pipes. You look at distance penalty, Pipe still has a little bit more distance penalties than Barcode does right now as well. So, about 47, 48 minutes left in P1R's SEC Enduro here. A smaller field, a smaller track. It seems like this event is going to be decided purely off of pace and how good your car can handle the change in temperature. And mind you, this stint might end in the night, but stint 2 is going to be night flag to flag. So for this ESV entry that Pipes is in, they could end up losing even more time very shortly here. Lights are on now at Kylami. So it is officially nighttime now. So as this has gone on, NWR- way back here in the Corvette is currently the driver with the least amount of distance penalties at the moment. The only downside is that he is so far off of ZR Villa that it doesn't look like it's really going to give him a massive advantage. Now granted, Villa is creeping up on a quarter of a mile of distance penalties, so if it continues to go bad for Villa, it can get a little bit closer. But while Hyphen is doing a good job keeping the car clean, he does not have the pace to really make any use of that. Alto has ended up behind Hilfiger. Not 100% sure how that happened, because Hilfiger had been running in the back a lap down for the majority of the event, but now Alto has slipped to last. Most of the battles on track, like I said, seems to have broken up once again. Big twitch and slide by Alto. That would definitely hurt. Okay. So, this is about the time that we would expect to see ESV Pipes pitting. He's already at 62% wear right now. Barco's going to be at like 54 or something like that, right? Yeah, he's at 54 exactly. So Barco can likely pit the lap after this one, but Pipes will have to pit now, and look at the gap between the two of them. The gap between Pipes and Barcode rapidly opening up now. The McLaren does not seem to be able to keep its tires under it nearly as well once the track starts darkening up. And for Cavatra, this is good news, because while Cavatra is also in a McLaren and not in a position to really do anything to Pipes to take advantage of this, all of Cavatra's closest rivals on track are also on McLaren, so everyone second, third, fourth are all losing second, third, fourth, and sixth are all losing ground at roughly the same rate. And this basically denies Pipes a shot at giving the team a good start for today's 6-hour Enduro. Okay, we're going to see Pipes stopping this time by here. We're going to go to ad break, and when we come back, we're going to see Barcode pit and see how much bigger the gap has grown now in the nighttime. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Kylami. We look at ESV pipes, trying to see what you can do to close back in on barcode. But the interesting thing is that Indio Cavacho, who's ranked third, has pitted a lap earlier than we were anticipating. So Cavacho now in a position where he is in the same position as Pipes. He's going to be burning through his tires even faster. Still has about 2 more stops we're anticipating left in the event. Now, maybe if Cavacho put on mediums, we won't really have a good idea if he's put on mediums or not, will we? No, he's definitely not put on mediums. If Cavacho had put on mediums and went medium, maybe he could have made it to the end on only 1 more stop. But as it stands right now, Cavacho now back in the hot seat because now there is a possibility, a distinct possibility that Dindu, who has less than half the distance penalties that Cavacho has, there is a distinct possibility that Dindu could leapfrog Cavacho. But the gap between Barcode and Pipes has opened up significantly. We're going to try and use the camera way down in Sector 3 and try to time audibly the gap between first and second. Excuse me. We're going to try and time the gap between them, if at all possible. Other thing to consider is that first and second place are now in a position where they're putting cars a lap down. Now, Hyphen and Alto have already gone a lap down several times. So has Hilfiger, so that doesn't really change anything. But as this is going on, these guys are going to get more and more lap down. Okay, here we go. There's Hilfiger, there's Hyphen. There's Alto. 1001, 1002, 1003. So about 3 seconds between Barcode and Pipes at this stage of the event right now. And the gap is only going to continue to grow as this goes on here. So not really much more changes out at the front. Once Barcode took over the position from Pipes, it's just been he's gradually opened it up. The interesting thing is going to be Cavacho versus Dindu. The thing is that Dindu is still fighting on track with India Light. Now, Light had kind of opened up and kind of blown away Dindu, but they are on alternate strategies, and now in the nighttime, as the McLaren seems to bleed off and hemorrhage time and pace, this could be great news for Dindu, but we don't know if Dindu is going to have a shot at third from Cavacho. But again, it looks like Dindu's closest rival in the points, the team fighting for third, is not running today. I could be misinterpreting it. Maybe the document has not been properly updated. But if that is the case, then Dindu, by default, is going to move up to third in points by a significant gap anyway. Big move there by Light. Forces and muscles his way by Dindu going up to the top of the hill. So it's a great, solid move there. Now, granted, Dindu is on some really worn out tires and Light's on some nice, fresh ones. Oh, you gotta keep that McLaren on track, and he does. Ran right onto the outside curb. Got really tight there. Nighttime racing here at Kylami. If you want to see more GT3s at Kylami, don't you worry. Once the stint is over, there will be about a 40-minute break or so, and then we will be back with Stint 2, and we're anticipating that one, Stint 2, will be all night, all the way from start to finish. Then we'll have Stint 3, which we think will start in the morning and go through the daytime. So for the McLaren teams, that Stint 3, will be their best chance to try and make up the ground that they are losing now on circuit. Big twitch and slide by Dindu there, as he's really struggling with worn out tires at the moment. Credit where credit is due also to NWR-. For the moment, he is still on the lead lap. Somehow. He is maintaining a lead lap position for a lot longer than anticipated. It is taking a lot longer for drivers to go a lap down and stay a lap down. Alto has gone a lap down, stayed a lap down, but he's had some accidents on circuit. Hilfiger is basically dealing with an entire extra pit stop as the event is going on. He made a second pit stop within the first 12 minutes. It was really, really a strange thing. We couldn't really tell what the reasoning for that was. And then Hilfiger's actually pulled away just a bit. So Hilfiger's actually kind of getting away from the leaders just a little bit. Now we see Hyphen finally goes a lap down as Barcode goes by him. Not even a real fight put up. Now that McLaren's going to shoot around to the outside, and with the Chevy sliding into the dirt, that's not really going to have an impact. Okay, so Didn't Do pits, and so does ZR Colin. Reminder, Didn't Do and Colin are running, or they were at least running alternate strategies earlier in the event, but now their strategies have zeroed out at this point. In fact, it seems like now at this stage of the event, everyone is running pretty much the same kind of strategy now. We don't know what the strategy is going to be for Cavatro and Pipes, if they have anything they're going to try and do. Cavatro just needs to maintain third and make sure that Didn't Do doesn't nip him in overall distance. The only thing that might help him is that Didn't Do's team, that Ferrari, the other drivers are just less competent, less capable with that Ferrari. Didn't Do seems to be the only driver I have seen in this game that is confident and good at running that Ferrari GT3 car, unless you're in a scenario where the cars are incredibly unbalanced, top to bottom, and then, if Ferrari is given a ridiculously good BOP, yeah, lots of people look good in it, but Didn't Do has been the only person who has looked good in that Ferrari GT3 all season long. So it may not be an issue for Cavatro, even if he loses some ground to Didn't Do. The other Ferraris may still bleed off time anyway. %, for Pipes. For Barcode, 33. We've done a lot about talking about Didn't Do. Let's go ahead and ride on board for a lap on board with the Ferrari. See what a flying lap around Kylami looks like in the Ferrari here at Kylami. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Kylami. as Dindu is stuck behind ZR Colin and also dealing with Snowland, and he moves over and lets Snowland by. So Dindu now seems to be struggling as well. Seems like anyone who is not ESV Barcode is having a massive amount of struggles in the nighttime. This is the lowest position I think Dindu has fallen on merit over the course of the entire race. So Snowland now right behind Colin. Snowland at one point was at almost last on circuit, but has gradually popped their way up, and depending on how the rest of this goes, a top 5 result might be in the cards for them in that Acura. Trying to set up for a move, go around the outside at the top of the hill. This would be a risky move. He gets right into the side on the McLaren, and around the outside, the Acura has some superior acceleration, and don't clear him on exit. That is the strongest thing with the Acura. They just have fantastic acceleration on corner exit, and Snowland now up to 5th. Now he is way off of 4th place right now, India Light. But still, Snowland has been on a silent, steady charge up through the field here. And all 3 of these drivers, 5th, 6th, and 7th, all drop a tire into the dirt there. Daniel is not too far off of this group as well. Daniel might be able to stem his bleeding and get at least a 7th, depending on how the rest of this goes. Just about a quarter of the way left here for Stint 1. And while the fight for the win seems to be decided, and we think the fight for 3rd has basically been decided as well, everything from 4th to about 8th seems to be way up in the air now. Pipes pits. Colin being put under pressure by Dindu now. Dindu has been stuck behind Colin for the last few laps. Power out. Down into the valley, and then you'll rush uphill to the end of Sector 2 at the top of the mountain, and then you'll enter Sector 3. This is where Colin lost the position last time, very forcefully from Snowland, but Dindu does not seem to have what it takes to force himself around the outside, or to even get alongside that McLaren right now. So while Colin is under pressure, he's not being passed yet. Light elected to pit this time. Cavatro also pitted this time, so the gap between Cavatro and Light on circuit will not change. Barcode stayed out for another lap. In fact, right now, everyone who is outside the top 10 has gone a lap down, and there you see Snowland pits, and there you are, side by side in the final corner. Is that the move that Dindu needs? It might be. Dindu now goes back to 5th as he muscles his way by, but Colin is not done. They are still drag racing as they go down the front straightaway. The McLaren has superior top end. How deep under brakes can the Ferrari go? Plenty deep enough. He beats them to corner exit, and it's crossover. Crossover time, and Colin gets the Ferrari on the crossover. A little bit of contact, but Colin gets 5th place back with the crossover move. And now into the shorter back straightaway. The Ferrari is right there. He looks to the inside. Does he go deep under braking? No, he backs out and gets the rear end of the car all sorts of sideways. So Colin holds on to 5th for the moment. And if these two fight for long enough, Snowland running in comparatively clean air. Oh, no. No, Snowland is not in clean air. He's behind McKeech and Villa. So this might not work out for any of these guys. These two are fighting, and Snowland is dealing with traffic right now. Barcode still has not pitted. I don't know what the reason for that is. He's pushed the tire life out a ridiculous distance. He does not need to push this far. He should have pitted this last time by. This could put him at risk of losing all the ground that he built up on pipes. Pipes. tucked up now behind traffic. Another one of the McLarens. Cavatro. No, this is Cavatro who's tucked up behind traffic. Pipes has cleared traffic. I apologize for that. And this fight will not end, though. Colin dives in at the very end of the corner, basically. Muscles his way back by. NDL didn't do again. Down the back straightaway once more. Barcode finally makes a stop, but has he stayed out for too long? Or was this planned? Was the decision between the ESV team is that now that Barcode has shown his stuff, does Barcode have to intentionally sabotage his strategy to give Pipes a shot back at this? Again, Pipes' team is fighting for the championship. Barcode's is not. This fight for 5th will not die, though. Pipes ends up right alongside Barcode for all intents and purposes around the outside. Still there. They are still in a dead heat. But here's the thing now. Pipes has a massive tire disadvantage, but Barcode has his own disadvantage. He went a little bit too far, bled off way too much time. Was this a planned strategy to give Pipes the win back? Is this what you might call race fixing between the ESV team members? It's awfully convenient that now, for no good reason, when he had the race wrapped up, Barcode sabotages his strategy, and suddenly ESV Pipes is back in it. Dindu and Colin continue their fighting, but this time, Dindu finally has the position over Colin. But the Ferrari dumped a tire on the outside, and now here comes the McLaren. The McLaren has some superior straight line speed, trying to keep it even around the outside. If you can do that, it'll give you a good run to the foul corner, but no, at the very end, he has to back out of it. So Dindu holds on to 5th for just a little bit longer. Reminder, these two were fighting with Snowland, and Snowland is still dealing with some traffic ahead of him in the form of ZR Villa, who's in a fight of his own. So now, all of a sudden, near the very end of the event, everything's kind of exploded on circuit in terms of activity. Barcode's already pulling away from Pipes once, well, he was, and now all of a sudden they're braking. He sucks right back on him. But again, Pipes has now 2 laps of disadvantage on Barcode, but he will go back down to only being 1 lap disadvantage against Barcode near the very end. Again, we're not sure why Barcode shot his team's strategy in the foot, because they were on track to win by a massive amount. My guess is that it was team orders, so that way this car did not have as much of an advantage, and Pipes' team could still come back in overall distance. Dindu and Colin continuing their fight for 5th position here on track. Dindu has it, Colin wants it. Colin has superior straight line speed. But I have to wonder, is Colin burnt off the best of his rubber trying to fight with Dindu as much as he has? Yeah, I think this fight's just about dissolved now. Snowland closing in on ZR Villa in the Audi. He needs to nip Villa quickly, so that way, on alternate strategy, he might still have a shot of catching Dindu and Colin, but I don't think Snowland has it. I think everyone's gonna have to pit one more time in some way or another as it stands right now. So I think where everyone is right on track is gonna be pretty close to where their final result on circuit is going to be. Oh, and now Barcode has more distance penalty than Pipes all of a sudden. So if they finish where they are, Pipes would still win. I am 100% convinced that this was designed within the team. Maybe not before Hoof, maybe not before the event started, but with the way this is going, this reads like the kind of stuff you would see a European team trying to do, if they were trying to do some race fixing to make it look like there was a legitimate fight, but they actually had already pre-decided where everyone was supposed to finish here. Downhill once more. All right, through the last few corners again. Oh, and Pipes deep off into the dirt that time. Didn't lose too much time, but he got a gigantic time penalty, and now Pipes has more distance penalties than Barcode all over again. Okay, with about 20 minutes left, we're going to take a Twitch-mandated ad break, and when we come back, we will be sticking with this to the end here. Pipes trying to make a last-minute comeback after Barcode shot his strategy in the foot. We'll be back momentarily here at Kylami. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you can see it right here. Pipes and Barcode in a fight to the end here. After Barcode sabotaged his strategy, pitting a lap later than he had any time before, it brought Pipes back in the fray. Contact coming off the top of the hill. Now downhill. Both of these two will have to make one more stop due to tire fall off. Barcode's only at 36%. Pipes, though, should be significantly more worn. He's in the 50s. And yet, despite that, Pipes is somehow keeping up with Barcode. Again, in these events, there is no sim damage, so it's not like there's engine damage or anything else. But the trend that had been growing since about 45 minutes in has suddenly reversed and gone the opposite way. And now, out of nowhere, Pipes is the faster of these two all over again. Although now it seems like Pipes might be falling off due to tire, due to tire wear. Pipes has what is basically a 2-lap disadvantage on Barcode, but that will go back down to being only a 1-lap disadvantage, we anticipate, by the time everyone makes their final stops. Also, the duo is coming up on traffic again in the form of ZR Villa, who has over a third of a mile of distance penalties right now. Third place is still NDL Cavatro. Down the hill. Do you pit this time? If you pit this time, you'll come out with about 15 minutes left on the clock, and you should be fine. I would imagine everyone would strongly consider pitting this time by if you want to throw on soft tires to the end here. Nothing from the lead Dodge. For some reason, Barcode tries to go the long way around on a corner that you can't really make that work on, and that brings Pipes back in. Cavatro pits with 15 minutes left, so he won't have to worry about tire fall off. 62% here for Pipes for some reason. He has, this is about the time where we figure that his tire fall off is going to really become a problem here. Barcode will not have to worry about that. When he pits and comes out, he'll be fine. He's not even going to be super heavily worn. NDL Light also paying out 4th position. So as long as Cavatro stays ahead of Light, and Light has this massive amount of distance penalty, then it seems very likely that Cavatro is going to lock up 3rd place here on track. And boy, Pipes has suddenly fallen off a cliff. He has pushed the tires too far. It seems like about the time he gets to 60, he just loses everything. Colin pits, Dindu pits, Snowland pits, Daniel pits. So it looks like everyone was setting up to put on a set of softs on the run to the end. Cavatro's going to have very slightly more worn tires than everyone around him, but it shouldn't really have too much of an impact, where it's just paying our leaders will stop this time by. Is that McKeach who has just had? Yes, that is McKeach, who is in the other Dodge, who will be pitting, we imagine. Not this time. He might be setting up for a pit next time by, so he won't really get maximum advantage out of the tires, but potentially he might be out of our leader's way. And no, Barcode stays out a little bit longer. Why is Barcode doing this? I do not know. But Barcode stays out longer again. So Pipes will now have a tire advantage ever so briefly on Barcode, because Pipes will have the undercut. And there's not enough time left for Pipes to deal with another round of tire fall off. Is this strategized? Was this planned by the two drivers talking to each other to try and make it look like they were not setting up? Because this smells fishy. I will 100% admit, this smells fishy. I'm not sure why Barcode would be intentionally sabotaging his strategy, going laps longer than he needs to here at the very final runs. We're here at Kylami when there are so many slow speed corners that you're really hurting the wheel at. You don't want to be pushing the tires too far. And all of a sudden he is. He's been pushing the tires too far. While it's not going to cost him too much in lap time this time, he's not exactly going to be in great position. He's going to come out with only about 12 minutes left. The only other good thing, though, is that Barcode can really do some big underfueling shenanigans, at least. He'll be able to set lap times closer to what you would see during qualifying. Yep, and here he comes into the pits. He will be joined by McKeach, who is in the other Dodge Viper. So that should be everyone's final stop now. Might still get something out of Hyphen. So where's Pipes going to be in relation to Barcode? Pipes has already got his tires up to temperature. He's in clean air, does not have to worry about traffic at all. Through the final corner. Barcode's already out of pit lane, trying to accelerate up to top speed. Also, Pipes does still have more distance penalty than Barcode does right now. But Barcode will still have to worry about McKeith, who is in another dodge just a little bit ahead of him. Again, we don't know how this is going to turn out. If Barcode suddenly starts dropping time again and Pipes sucks right back up to him, and they swap positions, well, I think then the fix is in. But if we see the gap gradually opening up, it wouldn't be opened up massively, but if the gap gradually opens up in Barcode's favor, then it looks like we have a legitimate fight that, even though both drivers have made some mistakes, it looks like Barcode came out on top, as the McLaren just does not have the ability to put down the lap times in the nighttime that it does in the day. 11 minutes left, so about 8 laps or so. To the top of the hill, now accelerating down. McKeith runs in 10th position, trying to stay on the lead lap. We don't really know how hard Barcode's going to fight to try and put him a lap down, because McKeith is on nice fresh tires like Barcode is right now. So we're going to see them complete this lap in about 5 more full laps, and then about half of another lap after that. Cvatro, while they're not setting themselves up well to win the event, that overall event is not what they're going for. Cvatro's team needs to bring home a podium to stem as much bleeding as possible to ESV Pipes' team. And right now, with Pipes running second and Kvatro running third, we are setting up to a scenario where Pipes' team would only close by 2 more points on Kvatro's team in the championship. With how few drivers are running right now, that could see us lock up this championship and end the championship fight tonight. Not a guarantee. We do not know about the status of getting the December Enduro added, but if there is only one more event left after this, then Kvatro's team will have locked up the championship. He's cleared the traffic and continues to move on. Barcode is now caught behind McKeith. Gaps does seem to be opening back up. So whatever reason Barcode pushed his tires super far earlier, it's not hurt him too much. While the gap between himself and Pipes did shrink down, and both of them got more distance penalties, overall it went from about a 4,000th of a mile difference to a 7,000th of a mile difference. We've not really lost too much extra ground to Kvatro, who has still got nearly 2/10 of a mile in distance penalties. And Barcode is back to gradually opening the gap on Pipes, as he now is going to try and go the long way around McKeith, and McKeith is not going to fight back. McKeith says, yeah, look, I realize I'm about a lap down, so you just go by me. I'm not going to hold you up. So that seems to be done. Kvatro is stabilized in third. 4th place is India Light. 5th place, way farther back, is ZR Colin. But he is fighting still with Indiel Dindu. And Dindu now has more distance penalties than Colin. Again, Dindu is the driver in this Ferrari that normally performs the best, and he has been hurting and struggling. Not quite like the McLarens have, which just don't seem to have speed. Dindu just really seems to be struggling keeping the car under him as he is burning up the rear tires so much. Really tries to keep Colin pinched down here. And for the moment, he gets 2nd place back. The distance penalties between the two, though, work out in Colin's favor for now. Dindu's tires, 32%. Colin's tires, 32% as well. But Dindu is burning up the rears while Colin is burning up the fronts. Burning up the fronts, you can normally still maintain some laps. You just need a brake earlier and back up the corners. Burning up the rears, there's not really much you can do to change your driving style. If your rears are burning up, you're just going to be hemorrhaging and bleeding time. So I would not be surprised if we see Dindu get caught by Colin in the final minute of this run here. Every other position seems to be satisfied. It's just this one between Dindu and Colin as we come down to the final few moments here. About 4 more complete laps. Well, we'll get about 3 more complete laps and then about half of another lap afterwards. Oh, and Colin goes off into the dirt. Big slide through the dirt, and that gave him a big distance penalty, and now he has 1/1000th of a mile more distance penalty than NDL Dindu, and suddenly the fight for 5th is on. Dindu might still be able to pull this off here. Down the back straightaway, through the sweeper once again. Nothing crazy or dramatic that time. But it does look like Colin is starting to close the gap back down on Dindu. But is he going to have enough time to make the move? Thank you, game. Well, the final 30 minutes or so of this event has become a lot more interesting. And any weirdness that was going on between Barcode and Pipes seems to have evaporated, as Pipes is still struggling to get around Nikit. Hyphen makes his final stop of the day. Now, Hyphen just now making his 6th stop. I think Hyphen was going for a bunch of medium runs and just you just don't have any pace. All mediums can work if you're going to be running in clean air while everyone else is dealing with traffic, but with how few cars there are on track, traffic's not really too much of an issue. You might as well just go all softs all the way through for maximum lap time. You're not going to be held up a lot on circuit. So now Barcode about to put EMC Alto another lap down here. We look back at the fight between Dindu and Colin as they go through turns 1, 2, and 3 once again. Colin is definitely closing the gap back down. Our leader's struggling with a little bit of traffic, but it looks like Barcode has finally cleared Alto, puts Alto a 2nd lap down. Pipes is cleared Makich, and now he will have to figure out a way to buy Alto, and Alto's just going to pull over and let him by. The traffic should not be a factor anymore for our lead duo. The main fight of interest will continue to be this one for 5th. Dindu versus ZR Colin. Ferrari versus McLaren. Both of these cars really struggling here late in the event. Snowland is not really close enough to capitalize on this group. He is not too far out, but I think he's got too much distance penalty. He has only about half the distance penalty, but still, I think he's a little too far out to really capitalize unless these two both start really racking it up. Oh, Dindu drop tires into the dirt. Does he get more distance penalties? Not this time, it seems. But Colin is there. They're going to get this lap they're starting now. They'll get all of it, and then they'll get about half of another lap afterwards. Might actually be a little less than half of another lap. Might only be a third of a lap. They might only have to go down the back straightaway, and then it will be over. All of a sudden, Pipes is closed back in on Barcode on circuit. Two minutes left. His barcode underfueled. Is he now suddenly in fuel saving mode? Because all of a sudden he's lost a bunch of time. Nope, doesn't have to worry about fuel saving. Don't know what's going on there. Ah, crap. Come on, Forza. Colin goes around the long way on Dindu, slides into the dirt, continues to slide, still sliding. Can't make it stick. Can't make it happen. Not that time. He's still there. You can still see Dindu. There's still time for Colin to maybe make one more move. Maybe down the front straightaway. There is 1,000th of a mile of penalty. That is about 5 feet worth. So Colin, if he can get alongside and get the car most of the way ahead of Dindu, he can make this stick. Just a minute left. Dindu twitches the car wide, but they both keep their cars clear for now. This will be the last time that these two go down this long front straightaway. Colin needs to get the perfect draft. I don't think he's close enough. Yeah, Colin lost too much time going off earlier. I think it's over. I think Dindu's gonna get it. Up through 1, 2, and 3. Dindu's off! Dindu goes off! Dindu goes off! And that's gonna let Colin get by, and Colin slides the car right back in front with 10 seconds left! Was that it? Was that all that was needed? 7 seconds left now! 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up! Over! Plow! And in the end, Colin nips Dindu after Dindu loses it from too much tire wear. And for Cavatro, his team will bring home third in Stint 1. They are setting themselves up well to try and stem as much bleeding as possible to the ESV drivers. We're going to knock out a Twitch-mandated ad break, and if we come back, assuming we'll come back, we will try and get interviews in with our top 5 finishers. Don't know if anyone's actually going to accept the invites. I kind of hope someone does, but... Alright. Colin, can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me? Alright, do you want to do an interview? Interview. Do you want an interview? Yes. Okay, 1 second. I'm going to... 1 second. Wait. Uno momento. Okay. En la fiesta de Xbox, debería haber un cuadro para incluir tu audio. Hello, Pipes. One quick moment. I'm trying to help Colin out here as he's not a normal English speaker. Just 1 second. I'll get an interview with you. Colin, hiciste clique en el cuadro? I can try real quickly. Yeah, let me try that. All right. While I wait, Pipes, can you hear me? All right. Can you include your audio in the Xbox party?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Yeah.
Colin, you drove great out there. How did you make your tires last?
My tires, my last stint,
Yes.
soft, soft tires.
Who's the next driver in the car? Who drives the car next?
What?
1 second. Next stint, who's driving the car?
See Arthur Lucky.
All right, Derluki, we'll keep an eye on that then.
The stint is in 4 minutes, no?
Yes.
Yeah, I can tell. Arthur Lucky.
All right.
I have
Thanks.
penalty or
You should be good. All right. Thanks for jumping in and talking with us, mate. You did a good job out there.
so?
All right. Pipes, can you hear me? All right. Are you able to include your audio in the Xbox party, Pipes?
Yes, I did.
All right. It was a very interesting time out there. For the first half of the stint, basically, you led, and then almost exactly at the halfway point, Barcode nipped you. And while you got close when he messed up his strategy late, it still looks like it's a second place result. Is this about what you were expecting, or did you think there was more in the car coming into today?
It's about what I expected. Barcode is a fierce competitor, always really fast, doesn't make many mistakes. So I just drove my race, tried to be competitive and force the issue when I had the opportunity to, and overall, pretty happy with the result.
All right, a second place result here. Cavatro, who is the championship leader, was third. Do you think your teammates still have a shot to make up enough ground to close more ground on Cavatro? Because as it stands right now, they're about to lock up the championship.
So the team I'm driving for today is a brand new team. We're fielding 2 cars in the event this weekend for the first time. The team that's close and in contention in the championships, the team that Barcode was driving for.
Oh, okay.
So we're just here for fun today, myself and Riker. He'll be making his debut in these P1R races in Stint 2.
Okay, then we'll be looking an eye on that. One more question I do want to ask. It looked like the McLarens were very fast in the daytime, but all 5 McLarens on track seemed to lose significant pace in the night. Did you notice any kind of significant handling change or difference when the sun went down?
Feeling wise, the car felt good across the whole set of conditions that we had. I know I was talking with Barcode throughout the race, and he did feel like the Viper was coming to him pretty nicely in the night. Biggest difference I saw car to car was, on the Viper, the front tires were wearing more quickly than the rears. And in the McLaren, we were getting a little bit more rear tire wear. And on those stints we had to push into the 9th lap, I was losing more time than Barcode was. So that's really all I saw. I think that in the day, the pace was pretty similar. McLaren was strong all around.
All right. Well, in that case, thanks for jumping in and talking with us, mate. And we'll be looking forward to the debut entrant that will be running in Stint 2. Thanks for jumping in and talking with us.
Right on, thanks.
All right. And that is the word from ESV Pipes. And with that, we will wrap up our broadcast here from Kylami. But don't you worry, in about 40 minutes, we will be back with another run here. But until then, I've been your host for today's broadcast, Insanely 13. Thank you very much for joining, everyone. Farewell and goodbye.